welcome to my studio. It's a snowy day out there, a good day to do some painting. So one of my students asked me, referring to his painting, that he felt his painting needed pizzazz, and asked me basically with a conundrum, how do you add pizzazz to a painting? So that's going to be the issue today, and we'll talk about how to add pizzazz in a painting. So let's get to it. All right, we're going to add some pizzazz to a shape. Let's talk about materials a little bit. These are my usual brushes. I've got my two wash brushes, 1 inch and 2 inch. I've got my round brush and my scrub brush. The palette is going to be still a limited palette in the earth tones, but I want a little grain, so I'm going to add a yellow. And the yellow today is going to be yellow ochre. So there's yellow ochre, and here we have burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. I'm going to squeeze out some fresh paint. So bear with me here. I always like to start with fresh paint out of the tube. Now, if you like the pan watercolors, you need to realize you're limiting yourself in value and intensity in your colors. I know I love pan watercolors too. They're very mobile, and the dedicated ones, professional ones, are pretty intense too. But I love tube watercolors. So here we go. Step one, you need a form, a shape, in order to add pizzazz to. Otherwise, you just can't add pizzazz to nothing. So let's go ahead. I'm going to choose a really simple shape, and it's going to be a leaf. And I actually have a photograph of a leaf that I took, and I'm working from here. But leaves are interesting, and they're kind of fun to practice with, and as a subject, they're nice because who can tell if you got it wrong? So, and we also have some stuff like some veins coming out here. Now this is a drawing, it's not a painting, and I love drawing, and by the time we finish this, you will not see the drawing. It'll be entirely a painting, which means we're not going to have any lines in this. Eventually, it's going to be all edges. I refer you to the first lesson. That doesn't mean you can't have a line or two in here, but paintings need to be edge dominant rather than line dominant. All right, so the secret to pizzazz today, one way to get pizzazz is going to be using this idea of counterchange. Now, counterchange, it has 3 levels of contrast. It's going to be a light-dark contrast, light subject against a dark background. We're going to have a dark background against a light bit of the subject down here. And in between, we're going to have gradations. Each one of those, light versus dark, dark versus light, and counterchange and gradation, add pizzazz. And we're going to do all 3 here. So let's get started. Just like Robert E. Wood said in the 1980s, and Milford Zorns was really big on this, use the biggest brush possible. And I'm mixing up a dark background color. It's going to be a nice cool mix of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. Now notice, on my palette. This is not a sloppy mix. It might look sloppy, but by sloppy I mean there's not a lot of water in it. It's pretty dry. About cream consistency. And we're going to start by doing a dark background. I'll change the color a bit. One of my habits I recommend you get into is that every time you get back to your palette, change the color. Okay, there's a pretty dark background. I'm going to overlap a little bit. I'm using Arches watercolor paper, and it's a little different than what I've been using in the first two Jumpstarts. Now we're going to add water, more water, and we're going to lighten this background up. I'm using the back side of a previous painting, and I'm noticing this paper is acting a little differently than usual. Okay, let's go. It's acting a bit like a blotter, meaning I've lost some of the sizing in the paper. That's okay. I just have to treat it a little differently. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that. So you can see we have a lot of contrast here, light dark contrast. So we have a certain amount of pizzazz in this already. All right, so we have a white leaf shape against the background. Now, this area is going to dry quite a bit lighter. I might have to scrub it to make it even lighter. I do have a lot of scrub brushes, different sizes. I do want this to be almost white down here. We're hoping it'll dry lighter. All right, so in this next bit of painting, what I want to do is draw the leaf pretty dark down here and then lighten it up gradually so there's pure white up there. Now that's going to be a gradation, and you always paint a gradation from the top down, top at the dark and light at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is flip this over. And I'm going to let this background dry a little bit because I don't want this to blur all over. This is going to be kind of a careful step. So what I'm going to do is flip this page over, and then I'm going to dry the paper, and I'm going to turn the video off while it's drying, and I'll use a hair dryer to blow it dry it. Some of this water. And now I've dried this off, and it's upside down, ready for me to do a gradation in the leaf, the subject. It's going to be dark here and get light, and I want it to be pure white up there, as close as I can get anyway. And I'm going to be using my flat wash brush for this step. And I'm mixing a green with the ultramarine blue and a bit of the yellow ochre. That'll give me kind of a greenish color. We're staying within this limited palette. But I want it to be kind of a dark green here, so it's going to be as dark as I can get and still make it green. A greenish color. All right. Again, not a lot of water in this. And we're going to go ahead and start with pretty linear, but notice it's not quite a line. I've juggled it up a little bit. And let's go ahead and now I'm going to add a little bit of water to this green, part of it. And then we're going to overlap my brush strokes so that we want a gradation. Now a gradation is a smooth transition between one color value and another color value. Now we're going to, problem with a blotter paper is that it doesn't like to do gradations. So now we're going to end up with, or smooth gradations anyway, we're going to end up with some white. It's really light stuff here. All right. Let's flip it over and see what we have from this point of view. All right. So this is actually doing a pretty good job illustrating one way to get pizzazz. We have a double gradation, background and foreground. We have high contrast, light against dark, white against almost black. And down here we have almost black against a very light, almost white background. So we're ticking off 3 boxes for pizzazz. Value contrast, both ways, and gradation. We're not finished with this by any means. So this is where you can take off and do whatever you need to this picture to make it as interesting as you want. So I'm going to play around with it a bit right now. Yeah, I lost my brush. Here we go. My round brush. We're going to add some detail. Now the paint is still wet. The paint here is still wet. We might be able to do a little scraping, not much. Maybe if I go a little harder. See the chisel edge on this aquarelle brush might, if I go, that'll be something. And then I've mixed up some paint that's, and I don't want it to blur all over, so I'm making sure that my brush is really dry, drier than the paint surface. And let's see how this goes. Okay, a little test area. Right, that helps. I love to lose the edges a little bit, and we can often lose an edge without really interfering too much with the pizzazz. Yeah, the paper's not letting me do exactly much, so that's okay. We just go with whatever the paper is letting us do. Let's take some of that green color maybe and add it, or bluish color, I guess bluish green color, and just let it seep into the background a touch. And let's call it finished. 15-minute jump start, pizzazz using counterchange. See you next time.